much for clicking on this video. My name is Carolyn. This channel is all about true crime, mystery, and anything abnormal. Highly recommend subscribing because this channel is definitely a vibe. Today, we're going to be talking about the 7M TikTok cult. A couple of days ago, Netflix released a documentary on this cult. And it's often referred to as the TikTok cult because the cult, definitely, as you'll see through the story, they created a management company called 7M, and they would manage TikTok dancers. But this cult was created and committing horrific things long before TikTok was ever created. I just want to say at the beginning of this video, everything is alleged. Alleged. A lot of times when we think of cults, we think of them as something in the past, but cults, I believe, have just gotten a lot more creative in the way that they operate. So we're going to start this story talking about the Wilkin sisters. Melanie and Miranda Wilkins, they shared a TikTok account and they were both absolutely amazing dancers. They began dancing when they were very, very young children, and they were exceptional. So when they created an account on TikTok together doing dance routines, they blew up and had millions of followers. Both of the sisters from the beginning had dreamed at some point of moving to LA to pursue further dreams of dancing. Both sisters had been approached by the 7M management company they would have these kind of like hype houses where a whole bunch of TikTokers or social media people will all live together in a house, and it's usually the management company pays for the house. They're usually paying rent to live there, and then it's just this really great opportunity to collaborate with the people you live with. So at first, the 7M management company seemed like any other company that manages social media stars. Miranda, the one half of the Wilkin sisters, she had joined the 7M management company. And Melanie, her sister, had gone out to LA, but she noticed a lot of red flags because one part of joining this management company is that you also had to attend the Shekina church. Melanie knew right away from the beginning that there was something wrong here. This wasn't a normal management situation, and she very quickly decided that she did not want to have anything to do with the 7M management company. So she lives in Detroit, Michigan with her parents, and Miranda is still out in LA, and she's becoming very successful. Her followers are building and building. She's dancing with a lot of other really amazing dancers, and her family are really happy for her. But then they start noticing that she is distancing herself more and more from her family. The family took to social media and they went on and did a live, and in the live were Melanie, the sister, and both of the girls' parents. And they were basically making pleas that they wanted contact with their daughter because their daughter had blocked them on everything. They couldn't text her, they couldn't call her, they couldn't, access her through social media, and they were growing more and more concerned. So what was happening with Miranda, who for all of her life had been extremely close with her family, and now it appears as though she wants nothing to do with them. It all began in 2001 when Robert Shin, who was the leader of the Los Angeles church Shekina, he founded a business called 7M Films, which was basically a management company for social media. Interesting, the address for the church and the address for the management company was exactly the same. So that's strange. And although the 7M management company was new, the Shekina church was not new at all. It had been founded in 1994. Robert claimed that he was a man of God. He pretty much made it seem as though he had direct access to the guy upstairs, which clearly he did not. Robert demanded complete control over all of the church members. And one thing that's interesting about this church is you can't just show up to church. You have to be invited. And he would have these people and he would basically convince them that they're going to burn in hell for the rest of their lives, and so are their families, if they don't follow Robert and do absolutely everything he says. So already things are sounding super sketchy. Robert preached a teaching called the 7 Mountain Mandate. And this is also where the management company gets the 7M from. And the belief behind the 7M is that according to believers of this, you need to take over 7 key areas of modern life. And those are family, religion, education, media, entertainment, business, and government. And that was to create God's kingdom on earth. Robert was telling all of these believers that they would eventually take over every industry. And Robert had a lot of businesses, and he had businesses in real estate. He had medical businesses. Oh, and this is the craziest thing. Okay, so where this cult comes from, like how Robert goes out to lunch, he claims that he used to be a doctor. He may have been a doctor. I could not confirm anywhere that he was a doctor, but he claims that at some point when he was younger, he was a medical doctor. And then, ta-da, he hears the voice of God. Now, whether it was the voice of God or the voice of, hey, you can manipulate people using religion and force them to give you all of their money, and then you don't have to do anything. And then you can also commit all these other crimes, and they're all going to protect you. Or the voice of God, whichever you believe. So Robert used a lot of, pretty typical cult practices. So first off is, no matter what, everyone that's part of this church has to be willing to submit 100% to Robert, or you'll burn in hell for eternity. Oh, and your families will too. Because Robert, he's got a direct connection to God. Okay. Allegedly. And then what he would do is he would get followers to reveal secrets about themselves to cult members. And this is really, really common in cults, is they will, they'll always, and this church did it, the same way, but not all cults, but cults that do this, they all kind of follow the same message. So basically what they're saying is, we're going to heal you, but we need to know all your deepest, darkest secrets. Now you as the believer think, oh, I'm going to tell them all these things and I'm going to be cured. And, you're brainwashed. So, there's that too. But then what they do is now they have all of these secrets. And what they will do is then use those secrets against you to make you feel even more dependent upon the cult. He ends up being able to brainwash these people into believing that they need to submit to Robert. And I know I have mentioned in the video already that he requires complete submission. So what that means to Robert, which is also very common among other cults, it's a very typical cult practice. So first you have to submit to them. Anything they say you do, you need to financially submit to them. So they get people to this place gradually, right? You don't walk into the church the first time and they tell you you need to submit forever for the rest of your life, or you're going to burn in hell for eternity. They slowly, progressively get people more and more brainwashed. It's a process that people go through. And he would run businesses, and all of the people in this cult would have to work for these businesses for almost nothing. They were basically almost working for free. The other thing they needed to submit was their bodies. Robert had these people convinced that they needed to allow him to do anything sexual that he wanted to them, and it was their honor to do that for him. Like, dude, gross. So the way Robert kept control over all of these members was not just through himself. He also exerted control over other church members, and they were known as mentors. Those mentors included his wife, Hannah, and some of his children and other very hardcore believers in this. They would kind of be mentors to the people who weren't fully brainwashed, is how I'm understanding it. And if you were a member of this church, you needed to do absolutely anything Robert told you to do, and you needed to do absolutely anything the mentors told you to do. So the mentors, they carry out Robert's orders, which included collecting money from the members, managing their bank accounts, dictating where they should live, basically controlling absolutely every aspect of their lives. And most of them worked for Robert's companies as well. Men and women were usually kept separate, with them having Bible study almost every day, but actual church services where they would go and Robert, pastor, would preach. And this would be on Wednesdays and Sundays. And these were not normal sermons that people were listening to. They were absolutely unhinged. And it was also during these sermons where Robert would be telling the members that they needed to disclose all of their secrets to them. And one thing that he commonly would say to them is, you need to tell me the secrets you've never even told your spouse. And Robert also controlled the members' medical health as well. So when the big virus hit in 2020, so Robert set it up so that they needed to get the shot. So what they would do is Robert had it set up at a medical clinic. He had someone working there who was part of the Shekina church. And what the members would do is they would go in, but they would never actually inject them or put the needle in them. They would just squirt out the shot on their arm, and obviously it's not going into their body. But then they get like a little card, back then saying that they had got the shot. And regardless of your opinion either way on whether to get or not get the shot and all of that craziness that went on, none of this, Robert did not care about these people's health. So the decision whether to actually get it or not had nothing to do with their health. It had nothing to do with if he thought medically it was not a wise decision. It was all about money. All of it was so that Robert could make money. So in 2021, Robert instructed every member of the church to apply for COVID relief funds. And many of the members, they didn't even actually apply themselves. Some other higher up people in the church would apply for them. But Robert, so they're getting these relief, but none of it's going to anyone but Robert. So Robert ends up making $100,000 just in vid relief for all of these members. The members were required to pay 30% of their income to Robert. So 10% was to support the church, 10% was an offering, and 10% went to Robert. So bare minimum, if you're part of this church, you need to be giving 30% of your income to Robert. Now, he took a hell of a lot more than 30% of most people's income. Most people would give 100% of their income. Robert would make sure they had a place, like he owned a lot of property. He has all kinds of real estate businesses. This man has a lot of money. So he had homes available for all of the church members to live. So they would all live together. So there's not really outside sources, which is another big part of being in a cult, is you need to isolate the members because their family and friends are going to notice something's wrong. And obviously they love this family member or friend and they're going to do whatever they can to help them. So Robert gets them extremely, extremely isolated from their family members. Now, what he would tell them is that they needed to die to their family. And this is something Robert would say a lot. He would say, you need to die to pretty much everything. But when he would say you need to die to your family, he had convinced people that if they die to their family, they would then save their family in the afterlife. So all of this that he has, these believers following is just nuts. It's all absolutely crazy. And again, let me just say allegedly. So once they launch this 7M management company, they want big names to join. And that is how Miranda ends up in this alleged cult. And it wasn't just Miranda who had joined this management company. There were a lot of extremely talented dancers who were very famous on TikTok. They had millions of followers. So 7M as a management company was doing really, really well financially, meaning Robert was doing really, really well financially. Now, Miranda, while she is part of the 7M management company, she ends up marrying another dancer named James B. Derrick. He is also part of the church. Basically, you can't be a member of the 7M management company unless you're also a member of the church. So that's super sketchy. But Miranda's family, they're not giving up. And they, as I had mentioned earlier, they went live on social media and they basically were just begging to know that their daughter was safe, their daughter was okay, and all of these types of things. They had very big concerns. And this got a lot of attention because the Wilkin sisters, before Miranda had become part of this 7M cult, they had a huge following, the Wilkin sisters, on their own. Like, they had millions of followers. So a lot of people had concerns. They're like, where's your sister? Like, all of a sudden, Miranda disappears, not just from her family, but she disappears from the account that her and her sister shared. So a lot of followers were questioning, like, where is she? Why doesn't she film with you anymore? And when they came out and were talking about all of their concerns, Robert thought, oh shit, I got to make up something big to silence this, because if you have a cult, you don't want attention on the fact that you're a cult. That needs to be super, super quiet. So then Miranda's husband, that's his dance name, he comes out and says that the Wilkins family has been harassing him and his wife. And the reason that Miranda doesn't want anything to do with them is because he was poor and black. So, first of all, he's not poor. He had millions of followers. He wasn't poor. But he tries to introduce racism as though this is the reason why Miranda has separated from her family. So if you were to believe it and take this at face value, now just to let you know, he's just as brainwashed as Miranda. Just like Miranda, he's a victim in all of this. Like, this is all coming from Robert. And I just want to be really clear that he is a victim, in my opinion, in this whole situation. So basically, I think Robert came up with the idea, let's say that it's racism, and then that's going to shut this whole conversation down. Now, the problem is that Miranda's sister, her boyfriend was black as well. So if the reason that they're no longer want to contact their daughter is because they're racist. Wouldn't they be racist against the other daughter? And in the Netflix show, you can, like, all of these people that join this church, they have to sign NDAs. I don't know what church you got to sign an NDA. If you go into a church and they want you to sign an NDA, if you see my videos before, you know I blink when you need help. Yeah, if you go to a church and they say you got to sign an NDA to, be part of the church, I would recommend no. You're probably being, brought into a cult, but that's just my personal opinion. So they have to sign all these NDAs. And there was one guy who did not sign. He refused to sign the NDA. So there's recordings in the Netflix series. Well, it's not really a series. I think there's three episodes of it. But in it, you can hear Robert giving a sermon. And he's flat out says, you should use the race card to your advantage. You should throw that in people's faces and it will shut them up and it will silence people. And you have every right to do it and blah, 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 blah. And he's just, he's so gross. And to me, it's a disgusting label to try to put on people who, from everything we know, this does not apply at all. And Miranda's parents and her sister, they have done everything I can possibly think of to try to save Miranda. And an interesting thing is, one thing they talked about in the Netflix show was Miranda's sister was talking about her wedding and how, she doesn't have contact with her sister. And she wonders, her whole life, she had imagined her sister would be her bridesmaid. And she's engaged, by the way. So she is planning the wedding. And now she doesn't even know if her sister will even attend her wedding. And it's really heartbreaking. One thing I'll tell you is Robert was ready for this show on Netflix to be released. Because I went on TikTok because I wanted to see, okay, so, the Netflix show ends. And then it's like, okay, well, what now, right? One of the last things Miranda has posted on her TikTok, I just checked it yesterday, was a picture of her, and in it, on the caption, she states that she's at her sister's wedding. So what ends up happening is that Robert, at first, he wants to completely isolate people from their families, but then he starts to realize, okay, that doesn't seem to be working because we're getting a lot of attention and a lot of people are making a lot of noise about this. So then he decides, this is going to be my opinion only. And this may have been stated in other sources, but I just want to explain this in how I believe it happened. Is he realized having zero contact with their family and friends, it creates a huge problem for them and it creates a lot of attention. So then what I think he did is he switched and he decided in his mind, okay, they are going to visit their families. And this is what she does. Miranda, she does go and visits her family for Christmas, and they were there for a day. She was there with her husband. And so I think by having the members of the cult go and visit family, it's very limited. They are, like, Miranda's family has said that they cannot discuss, Miranda's kind of has these parameters that they can't discuss anything to do with the church or 7M or any of that. They basically kind of get together and it's really kind of you're not actually talking about what's going on. You're just trying to, these families, they're desperate just to have any time they can with their child. But it's very, I think, orchestrated to make it look like, okay, you do have access to your family. Now, for family members to say, we don't ever hear from them, Robert can very quickly shut that down now. So I think her posting that she was at her sister's wedding was in preparation for the Netflix show being released. So as the Netflix show is going on, there's a lot of these dancers who had joined the 7M management company and the church. They have now left. Some of them, and they're really well-known dancers. There's Aubrey Fisher Green, Kylie Douglas, and Kevin Concrete Davis. They're all some of the members who have left the church, and there's a lot of others who have left as well. So there's all this kind of attention on this 7M management company. There's a woman by the name of Priscilla who sees all of this kind of popping up on social media, and she sees it and she does a quick search, and she cannot believe that this cult is still in existence, because she was a member of this cult a very, very long time ago. Priscilla and her sister, they had joined the Shekina church many, many years ago. Her sister was actually part of the church for 23 years. And in the Netflix show, it's very interesting watching the sister who was in the cult for 23 years, because the thing about her is she did get out, but it almost gives you a glimpse into, if you were part of this type of organization for 23 years, even though you get out, there's a very, very long process of kind of deprogramming, and they suffer horrific abuse, because a lot of the things that Robert did was to make him a lot of money, but there was a lot of SA going on. And when Priscilla and her sisters are talking about their experience in this church, there were beatings and SA on a regular basis. Women were R-worded. It was absolutely horrific. So at one point, they decide, kind of this group, they all start kind of connecting, because this family, they're still trying to save Miranda. But then there's also people who have come out of this cult, and they want to stop what happened to them from continuing to happen to other people. So Miranda's parents, who is one of the Wilkin sisters that we talked about at the very beginning, they start connecting with people who have left the organization. So then they're all kind of trying to work together, because they're trying to prevent Robert from continuing this absolutely horrendous, disgusting organization that he is using to control, manipulate, and abuse so many people. So they go, one woman goes and she makes a complaint to the Santa Ana Police Department. Now, when she goes in and explains that she was SA'd by Robert many, many times, they say, okay, yeah, one woman is never enough. One woman, no, they're not interested. So they say, talk to other people who've left the organization. If you can get a group of women who can come in and tell us their experience, and we have numerous women, because remember, one woman, never enough to believe if it's only one woman. Don't even get me started on that. But they say to them, get a group of women. So they get a couple of women to all explain, basically the essay that they suffered. But the way it ends in the Netflix series is there hasn't been any charges against him. So he's getting away with this. Like, it's being exposed, but police aren't doing anything about it. Now, I think in the release of the Netflix show, I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on police and the district attorney to take this serious and actually do something. So hopefully police will take this and, actually build a case and stop this from happening. But unfortunately, at this point, the people who are still part of this church, they're still suffering every day. And they will probably continue to suffer until they can escape or until the police decide to do something about this. And it's, you know, it's really, really horrible to end a video this way, because it doesn't end with any conclusion, because this is still fully operating. And the reason you'll have noticed through the video, especially at the beginning, I have said numerous times allegedly, is because there hasn't been criminal charges brought against this church. Yeah, I got it confused. So if you have not seen the Netflix show, I definitely recommend watching it, because it's very interesting to watch Priscilla and her sister, who were in the cult for a very long time. They have now escaped and been free for quite a while, and you can see how much damage that it does to a person. And hopefully now that the Netflix show has come out, there's going to be even more attention drawn on Robert, and hopefully something will come from this, and somebody somewhere can help these victims stuck in this church. And that is the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. I would love to know your thoughts on this situation. I would love to know if you've watched the Netflix show and if you found it interesting, what you learned. Like, it's really eye-opening to give a lot of different perspectives of all of the different types of victims that end up occurring because of a church. And I just want to say a huge thank you. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video. If you'd like to support the channel, please stick around and watch another video. And do something today that makes your soul happy. And I will see you in the next one.